Hello, I'm Martin L. Shoemaker, one of the authors in Robots Through the Ages, an exciting new anthology coming from Blackstone Publishing, July 25th, edited by Robert Silverberg and Bryan Thomas Schmidt. This book is a history of robot stories across the field of science fiction going back more than 100 years, including 3 new stories never before seen just for this volume, including one of mine. And I have loved the stories in this volume, and I would like to put together a video reviewing each of the different stories within it and share it with you so that you can see what you can get in this amazing volume. Next up on Stories from Robots Through the Ages is A Bad Day for Sales by Fritz Leiber. It opens as follows. The big bright doors of the office building parted with a pneumatic whoosh, and Robie glided onto Times Square. The crowd had been watching the 50-foot-tall girl on the clothing billboard get dressed, or reading the latest news about the Hot Truce scrawl itself in a yard-high script, hurried to look. Robie was still a novelty. Robie was fun. For a little while yet, he could steal the show. But the attention did not make Robie proud. He had no more emotions than the pink plastic giantess, who dressed and undressed endlessly whether there was a crowd or the street was empty, and who never once blinked her blue mechanical eyes. But she merely drew business, while Robie went out after it. And so opens A Bad Day for Sales by Fritz Leiber, a science fiction grandmaster, very prolific author in his time, known more for his fantasy than his science fiction. His stories of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser are foundational for what some might call low fantasy. It's not the fantasy of high wizards and high elves deciding the high destiny of the world. It is the fantasy of people trying to survive on dark, gritty streets in those worlds and trying to find a way to make their fortune and escape those streets and getting in a whole lot of trouble as they do. It's the same general genre as some of the Conan stories, although Conan eventually becomes a king and is working at a different level, but there's still that feel of the low street level understanding of fantasy and magic and steel and challenge. And the QR code on the right can help you find some of Fritz Leiber's sword and sorcery work, some of the early collected Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stories. Now, for some of the stories in Robots Through the Ages, I also read an excerpt and discuss it, but I'm not going to for this story because it is a short humor piece, and in my judgment, there was not a thing I could pull out that would represent the story well and wouldn't ruin the ending, wouldn't ruin the jokes. So I'm going to recommend the story, and the opening gave you the little taste that it is a hyper-commercialized consumer world where robots get introduced and set out in search of customers.